Okay, I'm going to do a couple of things with this video. There's a change to the itinerary for our excellent overseas adventure battlefield tour, and just to bring you up to speed, in about 3 weeks, two friends of mine, both of whom are ex-New Zealand Army guys that I served with, we're off to Turkey. We're going down to Gallipoli for about 3 days, and then Italy, faffing around there, going up to Monte Cassino, Anzio. We then travel through the remainder of Italy. I met my wife Jo in Rome, and the other guys come back from Florence. Jo and I travel up to the lakes area in Italy, and from there we were going to go up into Scandinavia, but we thought about that and we thought, well, haven't been to Scandinavia, want to do that at some point, but what is it? It's mountains, it's pine trees, it's fjords and it's lakes, and we got that shit here. Pretty much the whole of the South Island of New Zealand is that kind of landscape. So I thought about it and I thought, look, maybe it might be nicer to go and have a break, go and do something a bit different, somewhere where it's nice and warm. So we decided we're going down to Crete. We'll be spending a week on the island of Crete, which again, for you history guys, you'll know that's an operation, the Germans, Operation Mercury, the airborne invasion. New Zealanders played a very significant role in that. They were the dominant combat force on the island. So we're going there, and then Athens, back to Istanbul, London. So it's a 7-week trip, it's a big trip. And as I've indicated, anybody who has questions and things that they'd like to see, I'll try and film, and we've got guides, so I'll be asking them your questions. But what I don't want to do, and this is the thing about particularly the Gallipoli part of it, I've been to Gallipoli before, the other two guys haven't. I've read pretty much everything that's ever been written about the campaign. I don't want to go to Gallipoli just to film the Anzac sector and perpetuate this Anzac myth. The great bronze Anzacs, the Kiwis and Australians, rugged individualists used as sort of colonial cannon fodder and fed into the Turkish guns by an inept British High Command. That's kind of the version of history which is developed, and it's complete bullshit. We will be spending 2 days in the Anzac sector, and again filming the ground, because the ground tells you pretty much 90% of the story of why the thing failed. It's a miserable, tossed up, fucked up, never come down again, make no sense piece of real estate. They've got re-entrants that run places that there ought not to be re-entrants. There's razorback ridges. It's a bloody nightmare piece of ground. So when you see it, and as we film the whole thing, there's only a very small area, you can get a sort of a continuous narration of how what became a siege evolved. And it did. The whole thing was a complete failure. This is a bunch of rank amateurs. The New Zealanders and Australians were just that. They were complete novices. I would rate them as being perhaps a quarter trained. They knew how to march, they knew how to shine their buttons, they knew a little bit of basic musketry. Most of the guys would not have been able to read a map. It was an incredibly archaic campaign, even by the standards of World War I. You know, there was no tin helmets, there was no hand grenades, they had none of those. No trench mortars, all the stuff that you need for what is effectively a kind of a siege operation. There's no barbed wire. It's a very curiously old-fashioned, almost 19th century campaign. So we're going to do the Anzac thing, but what I'm really keen on doing is getting down to the British sector at a place called Helles. It's physically separated on the peninsula, because the British are left out of the equation now. In our great Anzac story and the Anzac myth, we leave the Brits out unless we're talking about them in very disparaging terms. Now the senior officers, the British senior officers, were totally out of their depth. These guys had done nothing but engage in basically British colonial police actions throughout the empire. They were way out of their depth. The operation was hastily conceived, it was politically conceived by Churchill, the Navy failed in their initial assault, then there was this mission creep. It went from a naval operation to a combined Army-Navy operation. The Navy failed to fulfill their part once the troops had been ashore. It was just a fuck up from start to finish. That the guys on that particular piece of real estate were physically brave is beyond dispute. But as I say, I'm more interested in getting the Turk perspective, integrating the British experience, because they had a hell of a time. There's a place called, I think it's W Beach. We'll go down and film that. I'll talk about that, and the guide will talk about it. That is when the British landed on the same day that the Anzacs landed up the coast. They went through something that was like the first 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan, but it went all day. It was a god-awful massacre. And the British were brave to the point of suicide. Then we're going to look at the rest of that operation towards capturing a hill called Archie Baba and a small village called Krithia, which again, there is a New Zealand-Australian component. At one point, Kiwi and Aussie troops were brought down to fight in that sector and were massacred in the Third Battle of Krithia, which we'll be showing you. So that's the intent, the Anzac thing. Monte Cassino, slightly different. I'm concentrating more there on the New Zealand story, although I'm very interested in the 36th Texan Division. They had to attempt a river crossing at a place called the Rapido River. And again, we'll talk about what a screw-up it was, but complete and absolute failure, huge casualties, but phenomenal physical bravery from guys who had already been pushed pretty much to breaking point. They'd been fighting all the way from the Salerno landings. They'd taken a real hammering at a village called San Pietro, which we're visiting on the way up. We stop, we're driving up from Naples and it's on the way. That village has been left as it was in 1944, it's a ruin. They rebuilt the village somewhere else. So we're popping in there and having a look at that, having a look at the Americans, visiting the Polish cemetery, visiting the German cemetery, you know. And the beauty of Gallipoli and Monte Cassino is the principal geographic features are as they were in 1915 and 1944. They're very conspicuous physical features on the ground, and the geography hasn't been changed. Things have been rebuilt, but it hasn't been changed. Gallipoli is basically a wasteland, and it's national park now, so apart from a couple of roads and the areas that they've levelled off for the cemeteries and memorials, the ground is unchanged. So it's kind of a virgin battlefield in a way. Crete will be a different experience altogether. I'm very interested in the German paratroopers. We butted heads with them all the way through the war. Crete was a battle that we should have won and we didn't. We lost it. Again, the myth of the great New Zealand infantry soldier doing his thing, bayonet charging in all directions. Yet true, but if they were good, well, how much better were the Germans? Because they were fighting with very few people, lightly armed. We knew they were coming. We butchered them on the first day, and they still managed to prevail. So I'm just not interested in coming back and presenting you with a series of videos with us talking about what a bunch of good bastards we are, because that would be a waste of time. So that's the change to the itinerary. As far as new toys, I just picked up a new grenade launcher for the K98. This is a Portuguese contract rifle that was never delivered. The Germans took it back when the war broke out. They didn't deliver the batch. Very interesting little grenade launcher, and I'll do a separate video on grenade launchers because I've got a few of them. This one's unusual and it's not rusted and pitted as most of them are. It's in beautiful condition. It must be unissued because it came with its carrying case, which is fantastic condition, extensively Waffen marked, and also something you don't often see with it, the whole ensemble together is the sighting mechanism bolted onto the back of the rifle. I haven't figured out how to do it yet. I'll get the books out and have a look. So that's new, and I also managed to grab a really nice minty K98 bayonet. Now these things are, you know, very common, but not necessarily in this condition. This is unissued. Really good nick. So it's just nice to be able to flesh out the accessories for the weapons. Only other thing of merit, picked up a new Smith & Wesson Victory pistol. This is a pre-war. We think manufactured in 1911. It's got the freestanding K stamp above the serial number. So it was a civilian gun, a commercial grade firearm, then taken into military service, reconfigured for that in that role, and it was issued as a Lend-Lease revolver. I had another one manufactured during the war, and I mean you can see the finish is quite different. So that's about as much new stuff as I've got. So, a 7-week trip. Everyone's pissed off at me because they're going to have to sit and endure a New Zealand winter while we swan off to sunny Europe. It should be an epic trip. I'll try and get as much footage as I can, whilst not, you know, missing out on the experience myself. I'm very keen to talk to the Turk guide. The Italian guide at Monte Cassino will give us a very different perspective. I've been to Monte Cassino before, one of the few places where New Zealanders are not particularly popular, because we flatten the town, flatten the monastery, and as they will remind you, also the 23 villages up and down the Leri Valley. We also bombed the pus out of them as well. So that's where we're going with this. And again, Anzio, we're going up to Anzio on the way to Rome. That's a bit tricky because that has been developed. It's now quite a major seaside resort town. So the ground has been changed, but there's still caves that I think still exist where the British fought, and then down in the American sector I believe there's still a big ravine that Derby's Rangers was destroyed in. If you don't know the story of that, look it up, because it's a really one of those epic little small infantry, small unit engagements. The Americans did phenomenally well. So that's about it. That's the update. We're going to Crete as well as these other places. 3 weeks to go, looking forward to it. If I have anything to add before I go, I'll make another video. Otherwise, fuck it, I'll see you in Turkey.